They called it the Brazen Bull, an invention so cruel that even ancient historians struggled to describe it without unease. In the ancient Greek world, where philosophy flourished and democracy was born, there also existed a darkness, one shaped not by ignorance, but by deliberate design. This was not a weapon of war. It was not a battlefield execution. It was something far worse. It was theater, public, calculated, engineered suffering. The Brazen Bull was a hollow statue cast entirely from bronze, forged in the shape of a massive bull, standing rigid, powerful, almost majestic. But beneath its polished surface lay something unimaginable. Inside the metal body was a chamber, just large enough for a human being. A door, concealed along its side, would open, and a condemned person would be forced inside. Once sealed, the execution would begin. A fire would be lit beneath the bull's belly. Slowly, deliberately, the metal would begin to heat. At first, it would be uncomfortable, then painful, then unbearable. As the temperature rose, the metal walls would transform into a furnace. There was no escape, no mercy, no quick death. The victim would begin to scream, but those screams did not echo as human cries, because the bull was engineered with something even more sinister. A system of carefully crafted pipes and acoustic chambers ran through its head. These mechanisms transformed human agony into something else. As the person inside screamed in pain, the sound would pass through the bull's internal tubes and emerge from its mouth as the bellowing of an animal. To the watching crowd, it would sound as though the bronze beast itself was roaring. Agony had been reshaped into spectacle. Pain had been redesigned into performance. Cruelty had become music. The invention of the Brazen Bull is most often attributed to a Greek craftsman named Perillos of Athens. Perillos was not a soldier, not a tyrant, not a king. He was an artisan, a man of metal and imagination, and he sought to impress one of the most feared rulers of his time, Phalaris, the tyrant of Akragas in Sicily. Phalaris ruled during the 6th century BCE. His reputation was one of absolute control and merciless discipline. Ancient sources describe him as cunning, intelligent, and terrifying. To win favor with this ruler, Perillos designed something extraordinary, something unforgettable. He presented the bronze bull as a masterpiece of craftsmanship, but it was more than art. It was a device of execution, a spectacle that would demonstrate power. Perillos reportedly described to Phalaris how the pipes would convert screams into lifelike animal sounds. He explained how the crowd would hear what resembled a raging bull, not a dying human. The tyrant listened, studied depreciation, ran his hand across the smooth bronze surface, and then he made a decision, but not the one Perillos expected. According to historical accounts, Phalaris ordered the inventor himself to test the device. Perillos was locked inside his own creation. A fire was lit beneath it, and as he screamed, the bull roared. The tyrant, it is said, removed him before death, only to have him executed by another method shortly after. If the story is true, it reveals something chilling. In the world of tyrants, cruelty was not just tolerated, it was admired, and sometimes it consumed its creator.
But the Brazen Bull did not remain a single experiment. Whether exaggerated by later historians or grounded in truth, the legend endured for centuries. It became a symbol of ultimate tyranny, a reminder that power, when unchecked, often seeks spectacle. Public executions in the ancient world were not hidden. They were deliberate displays of authority. The suffering of one became a warning to many, and the Brazen Bull was designed for maximum psychological impact. Imagine standing in a crowded square, the sun overhead, the smell of smoke rising into the air, a massive bronze animal standing before you. Then the sound, not human, not entirely animal, something in between, a metallic bellow, a distorted cry. The crowd watching, some in fear, some in fascination, some perhaps even entertained. History often remembers wars and conquests, but devices like the Brazen Bull remind us that cruelty itself was sometimes elevated into art, engineered, refined, perfected, and displayed. What does it say about a civilization that could produce both philosophers like Pythagoras and devices like the Brazen Bull? How could a society that debated ethics and justice also tolerate such calculated suffering? The answer may lie not in contradiction, but in power. The ancient world was brutal, life was fragile, authority was maintained through fear, and nothing instills fear like spectacle. The Brazen Bull was not just an execution device, it was a message, a declaration, a warning carved in bronze. Defy the ruler, and you will burn. Yet historians debate the accuracy of the story. Some believe later writers may have exaggerated the details to paint Phalaris as a monster. Others argue that even if the exact mechanics were embellished, the principle of slow public execution was common. Whether myth amplified truth or truth inspired myth, the image remains powerful. A hollow bronze beast, a fire beneath it, and screams turned into something almost musical. In the end, the Brazen Bull survives not only as a device of death, but as a symbol of how far power can go, of how creativity can be twisted, and how easily suffering can become
There is something uniquely disturbing about a device like the Brazen Bull. Not simply because it killed, but because it transformed death into performance. Most executions throughout history were designed for one purpose: punishment. The Brazen Bull had another layer. It was theatrical. It manipulated sound. It manipulated perception. It reshaped a human scream into something almost artistic. And that is what unsettles historians the most. Because this was not rage, not battlefield chaos, not sudden violence. This was design, measured, calculated, engineered suffering. Public execution in the ancient world was common. In many Greek city-states, executions were visible reminders of authority. In Rome, crucifixions lined roads. In Persia, impalement was recorded. Across civilizations, power often revealed itself through fear. But the Brazen Bull stands apart. It did not merely kill publicly, it altered reality. Those watching were not meant to hear a human voice, they were meant to hear a beast. The victim was dehumanized even in sound. Their identity erased, reduced to noise, reduced to symbol.
Psychologically, this changes everything. When a crowd hears a human scream, empathy may stir, discomfort may grow. But when the sound becomes something animalistic, something distorted, distance is created. The suffering feels less personal, less human, easier to watch, easier to accept. In this way, the Brazen Bull did more than torture the body. It manipulated the minds of the audience. It turned execution into spectacle, and spectacle into control. Tyrants throughout history understood something simple. Fear spreads faster when it is witnessed, but fear spreads deeper when it is unforgettable. Imagine the memory of that sound, a metallic bellow echoing through stone streets, smoke rising, bronze glowing faintly in the heat, children watching, merchants pausing, citizens silent. The message would linger long after the fire burned out. Power does not need to repeat itself often when it leaves scars in memory. And yet, some historians question whether the Brazen Bull was ever truly used as described. Our primary sources come from later writers. Some Roman authors, centuries removed from Phalaris's reign, may have exaggerated the cruelty to depict him as a villain. Ancient propaganda was powerful. Rulers were often demonized after their fall. The story of forcing the inventor into his own machine may be moral storytelling rather than documented fact, a cautionary tale, a warning about arrogance. But here is what matters. Even if embellished, the story survived. And stories survive because they reflect something real. Whether the Brazen Bull existed exactly as described or became amplified over time, it represents a truth about power. When authority is absolute, imagination can become weaponized. The ancient world was not uniquely cruel. It was honest about cruelty. There were no cameras, no global scrutiny. Justice was often immediate, and mercy was selective. Execution devices across civilizations reveal something profound about humanity. When given power over life and death, some rulers seek efficiency, others seek spectacle. The Brazen Bull, if real, belonged to the latter. It was not designed for speed, it was designed for effect. Over time, the image of the Brazen Bull spread far beyond Sicily. It appeared in medieval writings, Renaissance scholars referenced it, modern historians debate it. It has appeared in art, literature, and modern media. Why? Because it is unforgettable. A hollow animal, a hidden human, fire beneath, sound transformed. It is simple in structure, but complex in symbolism. The beast was not the bull. The beast was power. There is also a darker philosophical question hidden within this story. How thin is the line between innovation and cruelty? Perillos was a craftsman, creative, skilled, intelligent. His talent could have produced monuments, tools, weapons of defense. Instead, it produced torment. Throughout history, technological advancement has often walked beside destruction, from siege engines to modern warfare. The Brazen Bull is an early reminder. Human ingenuity is neutral. It becomes moral or monstrous in the hands that control it. Phalaris himself remains a figure clouded in mystery. Some accounts describe him as a savage tyrant. Others argue he brought stability and economic growth to Akragas. History is rarely simple. But tyrants share one common trait: they must be feared. And fear, when reinforced publicly, becomes obedience. The Brazen Bull, whether literal or legendary, served that purpose perfectly. And perhaps that's why the story endures, because it forces us to confront something uncomfortable. Cruelty is not always chaotic. Sometimes it is intelligent. Sometimes it is artistic. Sometimes it is applauded. The crowd that gathered around the bronze bull was not forced to watch. They came, they witnessed, they listened. The transformation of scream into bellow, and then they went home. Life continued, markets reopened, children played, the tyrant remained in power. The machine had done its work. Today, we look back with horror, but history asks a deeper question. Would we have been different? In a time without modern law, without human rights, without global accountability, would fear have silenced us too? The Brazen Bull is more than a device. It is a mirror, reflecting how power shapes morality, how spectacle dulls empathy, and how easily suffering can become normalized. In the end, whether entirely factual or partially mythologized, the Brazen Bull represents the extreme edge of authoritarian imagination, a place where art met agony, where sound was weaponized, where death became performance, and where the line between civilization and savagery blurred. The bronze has long since cooled, the fires extinguished, the screams silenced, but the story remains, echoing through history like a distant metallic roar.